Hey, Jeff.
So there's lots of writers in the audience. This might become an open mic at some point, so I think everyone should just start thinking of something they want to read. Get ready to come up. But this is my short story collection. It's called Mormonia, and it's available for sale up there. It's 7 short stories. Most of them are set in Salt Lake City, and they're kind of sort of about Mormons. So check it out. So I'm going to read a little bit from the first story, which is called Visitor's Welcome, which is something you see on the front of every church in Utah. It says Visitor's Welcome, which I always just thought was kind of an odd thing because I don't think there are any visitors. I think everyone just sort of belongs. So I don't know why they have that sign there. But anyway, and the other thing you need to know is that Mormons have this thing called fasted testimony meetings. So it's the first Sunday of every month, and everybody gets up. There's a guy with a wireless microphone that goes around, and people just sort of stand up and bear their testimonies. It's kind of like a faith meeting kind of thing. So this is taking place during a fasting testimony meeting. Though the bishopric is here on center stage and always in view like 3 scarecrows in a field of corn, there's no sense anyone is taking notes, that any of the information used by anyone not taking notes would be used afterward to settle a cheap political score. That's the trust or the naivete of the crowd, and it itself is uplifting. This sacred covenant we've all entered into, many perhaps without ever even consciously acknowledging it, just by walking through the chapel doors. Criticism and cynicism suspended for 1 hour. I would like to thank my Heavenly Father. I love the Sisters of the Relief Society. I know with every fiber of my being, beyond a shadow of a doubt, as sure as I am standing before you today, brothers and sisters, I want to take a moment to apologize to everyone. Here we are, each one of us giving flight to the machinery of our faith, releasing like planes the sorrows we've kept too long in the hangars of our hearts. We're united now in the feeling this kind of sharing will not only be beneficial to us, but also to anyone listening. Anyone with a suitably open heart, arguably not the best vessel for hearing, may also be moved to lighten his burdens, to expunge his conscience in the same awkward manner. And here I am, hungry and hungover, still thinking about the white salamander, as I had for months, wearing a charcoal suit jacket with patches on the elbows and matching pants, fidgeting with my skinny black tie when I seized the microphone at the Bunyan 12th Ward around the 3-quarter mark. Just after 3 young sisters, triplets, the products of one of God's little miracles, a fertility drug, bore witness to their loving and eternal Heavenly Father. I rose, cleared my throat, and under the watchful and ruminative glare of my stepfather, Bob the Bear, the nervous but hopeful gaze of Beatrice, my ballooning and panic-stricken mother, I spoke. I don't know about any of this, okay? I don't know what to believe anymore. I felt like I might hyperventilate. The rest of the congregation craned their necks in my direction. The second counselor nudged the bishop who'd fallen asleep in the warm chapel, and the entire bishopric leaned forward in their chairs. Why do we do this? I ran my free hand through my unkempt hair. Perhaps I was already wondering why I'd stood up and what, if anything, I had to say. But then, before I could say anything else, I let out a loud belch. I tried to stifle it by pulling the microphone away, but when I looked around, I could see I had the attention of everyone in the room. 200 pairs of eyes, all bearing down on me, necks craned back in the rows of oak benches in front. They didn't know what I might do next. Obedience. That's what I want to talk about. Obedience to what? Listen, this is all bullshit, okay? I'm sorry, but it is. The instant these words left my mouth, rippled across the chapel and up to the rectory, I could hear many in our congregation gasping. Mothers everywhere in desperate acts of pantomime covered the ears of their precious angels with glad-lock bags of half-eaten Cheerios in order to shield the little lambs from any further blasphemy. 25 rows of saints seemed to stir at once in their benches. Some bowed their heads, shocked perhaps into a brief moment of collective recompense, as the second counselor furiously waved his finger in front of his neck. Like a first base coach, he was trying to signal something to the deacon. He wasn't calling for blood atonement, but it was clear he wanted him to cut off my microphone, and fast. I don't believe any of this. I can't believe we've got to listen to this crap. I'm sorry, but the white salamander, why don't we just get that out there? What were they thinking? The deacon reached in for the microphone. He was bigger than me, eventually wrested it free, and it fell with a loud thud, hitting first the solid oak bench and then the orange industrial carpet. In a moment of pandemonium, Bob the bear and the deacon rifled under the bench, touching hands and playing tug-of-war with opposite ends of it. The deacon finally seized it and held it aloft like an Olympic torch as a feedback crescendoed in a high-pitched whistle, a throng of Mormon crickets ruining a season's worth of crops, every last one of them gnashing its horrible mandibles in unison. I jumped over the end of the outlying bench. The bear grimaced, swiped his furry paws in an effort to restrain me, but I was free, and I pushed through the back doors of the chapel, scrambled into the foyer, where I looked up and caught the blanched gaze of a solitary woman not too many years older than me, nursing an infant on a cushioned bench. She'd heard everything, eyes full of contempt, a cornflower blue so frigid I thought at once of the Highland ice skating rink. I looked down at her spawn, a big boy whom they blessed at the top of the hour with the dubious moniker Nephi. The fat little cherub was now getting his milk before his meat. I stood for a moment examining Sister Larson's white breast, what I could see of it exposed to the flap of her garments, before I continued through the wide glass double doors. The sun shone directly overhead. I could hear robins singing nestled in the top of branches. Sorry, I lost my voice. I could see lilac blossoms on the bushes, a uniform row around the chapel's solitary, disconnected steeple. I could smell their sweet nectar as yellow jackets hovered hungrily around them. I bent forward, thought I might vomit, dug my hands into the wet soil near a broken rainbird sprinkler, beside some manicured junipers, and waited for someone to come out and give me hell. Hey. I turned around, covered my brow with my clean hand. It was Lena, someone new to our ward. I'd never had the courage to talk to her before. What you said in there? Wow, you really got a lot of people worked up. She was wearing a sheer skirt covered in blue flowers like a Maine vase, and I could just about make out the silhouette of her legs beneath the fabric where she stood. I followed the outline of her inner thighs from her knee to the convergence below her hips and felt my pulse quicken. She held out her hand and helped me up. I want to show you something, she said. I followed her because, well, I was stunned and I didn't know what else I could do. We crossed the street, her hand firmly locked in mine, and both now sweating in the midday sun. Where are you taking me? I asked, swallowing hard. I felt the mud drying on my other hand and wiped it against my pant leg, even though I knew it would mean the whole suit would need to be dry cleaned. Never you mind that, she said. You're in trouble, you know. What do you want to do with your last day of freedom? She was right. There would be consequences. I'd be grounded, locked out of the house, or disowned. There'd be a meeting with the bishop. There'd been a lot of those recently. We were good friends. But I still had 10 minutes before the services ended, before I'd have to face the music. Thank you.